Okay, so a little different episode this week. Tiffany got asked to be on the Brad Wiseman show. He's a realtor up in Pennsylvania, and they had a pretty good conversation, kind of going over different things in real estate, talked about some of the things that are the same, but also a little bit different in the North Carolina and the Pennsylvania real estate market. So this week, we'll give you a section of that podcast to listen to so you can listen to the conversation between Tiffany and Brad. Let's get into the real estate show.
So you are an attorney at Thomas and Weber. And how long have you been an attorney?
Oh gosh, 9 years. I worked in the corporate world and then went to law school at night. So I've been working longer than that, but practicing law 9 years.
Good for you. Good for you. And so you how long has the real estate show been going on?
Oh gosh. Well, we started the YouTube channel in its current iteration in January 2020. But the podcast form of it was introduced as a pet project of mine, like not long before my daughter was born. So beginning of 2022.
2022. There you go. So you got some shows under your belt. I'll tell you that much.
A few. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So let's jump in here. Okay. So what I really liked is that when I listen to your shows, a lot of times attorneys, and this is not meant to put everybody in one box at all. It's not. But many times we will find if we're in a transaction, if it's not a real estate attorney, they tend to not like us as realtors. But what I found is that you're actually working with realtors really well. It seems like you do that a lot very well. Tell me, how did you get into that situation or that position?
Yeah. Well, I have to give some credit to my former law partner. He passed away a couple years ago, but I came from the litigation background. I was a litigation attorney to start, and there's really not a team aspect of litigation. You know, it's like everything's adversarial. And I found it so refreshing to come into real estate where everyone really is working towards one common goal. There's a party that wants to sell. There's a party that wants to buy. There's a lender who wants to help that buyer buy. And there's agents on both sides working tirelessly to make that happen. So I know I just play one small part of that. And we can't succeed in that goal without everybody's cooperation. So I'll tell you one thing, that I don't want to do the job of a real estate agent. If I really did want to do that, that's the profession I would be in. Yeah. So the real estate agent is invaluable to the transaction, and I think we'd be crazy to deny that.
Yeah, and it's funny. You're an attorney state, so it's a little different than Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, we use attorneys if there's a problem.
Right.
We'll use attorneys at that point. But a lot of times, but then again, also I know like our forms, everything we use is created by some very high paid attorneys from the state of Pennsylvania through the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. So, we do use attorneys. It's just we use it on a very large level and we all use the same forms. So, it is there. And we couldn't survive without the attorneys for PAR writing our agreements. We couldn't do it. That's not what we do.
The costs would just keep going up too. If you had to have, we have standard forms as well. And I'm so thankful because the cost to custom draft essentially every time a contract, it would make it unaffordable to do business.
Yeah, I agree with you. So let's, what are the issues that you see? We have our own issues, but you probably have some of the same stuff. What are the issues that you see coming up most often in a transaction right now?
I'm not sure if in Pennsylvania you're required to get a survey, but in North Carolina you're not. It's discretionary, and we're
not either. We're not either. Just so we don't have to. No.
So this is probably common. I think it would be shared in both states. In North Carolina, our standard contracts say seller's got to convey clear title, and it's often forgotten that a survey issue is a title issue. So people will think, I can't get my survey done in the due diligence period, or, I'm going to buy it regardless, only to find out there's some serious encroachment, or like in Lake Norman, we've got impervious issues because of the lake. We got we're crawling with that stuff. And you can only find that stuff out if you get a survey. So, opting not to get a survey and you close, you've lost all your leverage, you lost your opportunity, you're accepting the condition of the property as it is. And then now you're living with that issue yourself. So that's one of the most common things that we see. But then we also constantly have the disputes about, making repairs.
Yeah.
I feel like that's everywhere. Like who's responsible to make repairs, if at all? And in our state, a seller doesn't have to.
Oh, interesting. Well, we don't have to, but I mean, the past several years, because of the crazy market we're having, we did inspections. I'm in the business for 32 years. So we did inspections for a very long period of time. And then when it got very competitive on this super sellers market is what I call it, it got to a point where inspections are being waived. And really, they've been waived for now 2-3 years. We all get concerned about, is that going to rear its ugly head at some point? But what are you going to do if a buyer says, look, you know what? In order for me to compete, I'm dropping the inspections, and we have they'll sign something that states that they're doing that. But from there on out, we think there could be issues with that. Are you seeing issues at all yet from no inspections?
Oh, absolutely. I think North Carolina is. I don't know if Pennsylvania has this. Do you have a due diligence fee in Pennsylvania?
We do not.
Okay, so this is something that people really don't like about North Carolina is that we have a non-refundable due diligence fee. A lot of people moving from out of state think it's a scam.
Right.
But
so who gets the due diligence fee? Who gets that? The seller?
The seller immediately, non-refundable.
Wow.
So it's basically buying the time off market, because the buyer backs out. Then at least the seller was compensated for their time off market. And it's not required, but it is the custom. So, it's really.
And what does that cost? What is that due diligence fee? Are your kitchen and bathroom remodels a little overdue? Well, now's your chance to call First Response Contracting. John Sellers will take care of you. 484-256-7136. They do residential and commercial, and they're licensed and insured. Give them a call at 484-256-7136.
Well, during the craziest times, I had an investor client put up the entire purchase price in the due diligence fee. $180,000 investment property. He put it all in due diligence, immediately non-refundable. If he walked away, he's walking away from $180,000 with nothing to show for it. So that's someone who's buying the property. One way or another, you're buying that property. But it really kind of depends on the purchase price, and how desperate. It was not uncommon in 2020 and 2021 to see $100,000+ due diligence non-refundable. So, we still work
now,
with most people still having inspections though.
Is that in addition to an escrow deposit or? It is, and that actually I actually kind of like that idea because it's really hard to get that escrow money if there's a problem.
Right.
But if there's a due diligence fee that's upfront and done, then you don't have to worry. That's very interesting. I'll have to bring that up here in Pennsylvania.
They might not like you for it, but
I know. Then I'll say it's your fault.
The reason. Okay, that's fair.
I'll blame it on you.
I didn't come up with it, so I'm fine with that.
I'm going to say there was some attorney in North Carolina that told me that this is the way to do it. So
But I'll allow it. That's fine.
Yeah, you can deal with it. So that's very interesting. So that was that's something that was going on, was a due diligence fee. Wow. And you talk, let's go back to when you were talking about the surveys, and one thing that we do find in our area is when you have an older area, like our area here, there's houses that are, 90 years old, and from owner to owner to owner, they all said, well, the right pin is over there and the left pin is over there. And that maple tree is the other side of the one pin. And, so what ends up happening is over time, those property lines are not really accurate. And then people don't want to get surveys. And sometimes we have issues. I'm sure you run into that also.
Oh, absolutely. And also we have to consider that in 90 years, surveying technology has improved quite a bit. So we can be much more accurate now than we could 90 years ago. And, I don't know if people realize this, but if the maple tree is one of the markers, trees grow. So at a certain point, that tree is
so true.
It's getting bigger, so the line is going to move at some point if you don't. True.
Just like a creek. Exactly. Creeks move too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we have that same problem. I mean, it's just a couple of weeks ago, I was reviewing title on a property that had been platted in the 20s. So interesting you said 90 years ago because it was a very old plat. And the surveyor was like, from those best we can tell, the entire plat has all the wrong. Like the plat doesn't actually line up with the actual pins on the ground. So everybody's plat is wrong. Like, this is a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, I always wonder, where do you start from there? Like how do you how do you start? That's why surveying, I don't understand at all. Like to me, it's just it's a mystery to me. I watch them out there.
Another job that I don't want.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you. So, I know one of your shows you were talking about scams. What should we be aware of when it comes to scams that are coming out? I mean, there's new ones all the time. We have wire scams, all that. What are you seeing out there? What's the latest for that?
Well, anytime I talk about scams, I never miss an opportunity to bring up wire fraud. It's the most prevalent scam there is. So I tell every client that comes through our office, assume they're going to get fraudulent wiring instructions at some point in the transaction. And when they hear that up front, it scares them a little bit, but it also makes them scrutinize very carefully any email to do with money, which is what we want. We want them to be extremely careful, and also requiring you can't send a wire until you verify those wire instructions, right?
You got that right.
But that's something that is extremely common. So one of the lesser known and is growing in popularity scams is the vacant land scam. Have you had any encounters with that yet?
This sounds juicy. What is it?
It is. It is very juicy. So let me set the stage for you.
Okay, go ahead.
This happens most often. Vacant lot, owner lives out of state from the vacant lot. The property is unencumbered by a mortgage. So owned free and clear, owner is not near the property, and no house on it. So what happens is someone impersonates the seller and lists the property either by themselves or through a real estate agent. That I've seen it happen both ways. And they get even to the point where, in fact, I had an attorney a couple weeks ago tell me he recorded the deed, but before he sent the wire, they realized it was a scam. So they were able to, it was hard to unwind, but they were able to unwind it. At least the scammer didn't get the money. But these people are saying, I have to be a mail away. I can't come to the closing because, I live out of state.
Which happens. It's happened.
Yeah, it definitely happens.
Yeah.
Yes. But you add on the fact that the property is unencumbered and it's a vacant lot, then your hackles need to go up a little bit. Yeah. And one thing North Carolina is telling us is that it's everybody's job to, it's the agent's job, it's the attorney's job to try to verify the identity of these sellers in these scenarios. So one thing that we do in our office is anytime we get a contract for vacant land, we are emailing or mailing a letter to the address on the tax card. Not something that the seller has told us. We're independently finding their mailing address and sending them a letter saying, hey, thanks, we got your contract. As part of our fraud prevention efforts, we're just verifying that you are in fact selling this property. And then another thing is we won't allow the seller to arrange their own notary. Some will say, I'm just going to take it to the bank, or I've got a notary that works in my office. We'll just sign our paperwork there. And it's not a real notary. So we require the notary, and then we won't close it unless we verified, gotten on, just like you and I are talking right now, seeing them face to face. And the requirement of the notary and the requirement of a video call in some capacity is cutting out, catching a lot of scammers.
Wow. I never heard that one. That's a new one for us. You must have a lot more vacant land than we do too. Cause I think that's probably,
that I'm sure that has something to do with it.
And also for it to be paid off, not encumbered, that's amazing. So there must be land that's just sitting down there for a while. People don't live there, and that's what a crazy scam. Wow.
Yeah, or inherited land.
Yeah. Do you guys get the deed scam? Do you get the one where they send in the mail to the seller or to the new buyer? Hey, if you want a certified copy of the deed, send in $85. Yeah.
Yes. They've gone up on price on us a little bit.
Oh, they really?
It's like 97 now. We keep the letter in the closing room, and we say, we can promise you this is coming in the mail to you.
Yep,
don't pay.
We have a copy too.
We just show. I love it. I'm so glad.
Well, if you want the cheaper one, I can get you that. If you want that, just in case you want a cheaper certified copy.
Save $12 on our fake on our scam.
Yeah, it's that one there. They made a lot of money off that. I mean, because I know a lot of people in the beginning when that first came out, a lot of people were doing it. They just didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't know that they were giving a copy.
It's so unfortunate. You can, I guess technically if they deliver, they're sending you what they're saying they'll send you. It's just free. Exactly. You know, you don't have to pay for that stuff.
In fact, you can go online now today and get a copy of a deed. I mean, it's very easy to do. So One of the things too, I saw in one of your shows that you had, it was the 12 clear signs of a bad real estate agent. Now, first off, yeah, I know. Hugo, I got a little nervous when I read that, because when I read that, I was like, well, I wonder if any of these are me. I hope not. I mean, I'm hoping I'm the good real estate agent. But tell me some of these signs of the bad real estate agent, so that people know what to stay away from.
Yeah. So first, let me say, I got to tell my husband that his title worked. If that's what you were thinking, like, let me see what these are to make sure that's exactly what he wanted.
And I'm running down through, and I think maybe because I'm a real estate agent, but it caught my eye and it was like, oh my goodness, I gotta check this out, Hey guys, I want to take a second and thank Comfort Pro. Since 2001, Comfort Pro has been helping customers stay comfortable where they live, work, and play. They have 24/7 emergency service and a 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. If you need help with your heating and air conditioning or indoor air quality, call Comfort Pro at 484-917-1803. Mention the show and receive a free humidifier with the installation of a complete system.
Yeah, I'll be fair. Or to be clear, I don't remember every single thing on the list.
Yeah,
but
right,
one of the ones that I remember is that, and we see this, an agent who's afraid to just put the bad news out there. Just be upfront about don't try to conceal problems. Don't try to make something sound better than it actually is. It's hard to make decisions if you don't know what could happen. Yeah. And another thing is like just not pursuing any sort of education, getting the license, but okay, you got the license. I mean, you're a great example of you are up to date, but you have been in this business a long time. You could have been frozen in time 32 years ago and you're like, I got it now, and just not keeping up to date. And that would mean you'd be given a lot of outdated or bad advice to clients. So if you're unwilling to keep yourself in the game and continue learning and evolving, then that's not great for a client.
No, and I agree. And we have this discussion a lot of times with agents in our company, because one of the things people say, well, how do you stay in it 32 years? How did you get to this point? Which always blows my mind. I'm in that long. But, a lot of it's just staying relevant, and staying relevant means you need to always be a student of your profession. And I'm sure as an attorney, the laws change. I mean, every day, I think you're right. I think you really need to stay on top of your game. You got to make sure you're learning what's new and what's out there, because how are you going to represent a person in a transaction if they maybe know more than you? Not a good plan.
It doesn't instill confidence. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, what's interesting too? So you are a real estate attorney. Now you do like municipality stuff also. Do you do that kind of stuff?
Well, I'm curious, what do you mean by that? Like
townships
work for the city, or?
No, yeah, but or like if somebody comes to you and they're doing a subdivision or something like that, would you be involved in that too? Okay, cool.
Yeah, we help developers and builders. So we kind of see it from, the 200-acre parcel of land to all the way through when that first homeowner is buying it, moving in with their newborn, So it's fun.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Very cool. So one of the other things, people keep talking about this. Do you see foreclosures starting an uptick, or do you see that starting to come into the market there?
I am seeing a little bit more, not so much that I am super concerned yet.
Yeah.
We have always had people interested in foreclosures. They'll contact us to do a title search because they're about to go in a couple days to a courthouse to bid on a foreclosure property. We're seeing it slightly more now, but again, not so much that I'm like, oh no, the sky is falling. Maybe, in 8 months, I'll tell you if that's any different. But I would say it's only a minor uptick at this point.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we're seeing too, because of the equity that people have today. I mean, they're saying almost like 50% of the people have like more than 30% equity or something. It's crazy. And I think one of the problems we had in 2008 is was there was no equity. Nobody had equity.
Right.
It was the opposite.
Yeah.
So as soon as somebody lost a little bit of overtime in their job, they couldn't afford the property they were in, and that snowballed into a.
Do you guys have the right of redemption in Pennsylvania? Like so in North Carolina, a borrower can. We've got at the foreclosure sale, we've got our upset periods. So the 10 days can turn into another 10 days and so on and so forth. I think that's pretty common.
Yep.
But here, like the borrower can, until that final upset period has ended, the borrower can redeem the property either by paying off or selling.
Yeah,
okay,
up until a sheriff's sale.
That's what we're seeing more so.
Yeah. Up until sheriff's sale, they can whatever, because banks really don't want the property. I mean, banks are not in the business to own real estate. They don't want it. So a lot of times, before it goes to sheriff's sale, before the final sale, in order to, for the bank to buy it back. They if they bring that check or they have that money, it's theirs. I mean, nobody ever wants.
Ours is maybe a little bit opposite of yours in that the sale happens first, and then you've got just the paper bids after that. But it's the upset bid periods could continue on and on and on. You could keep getting another 10 days by someone raising the bid, but it essentially it's not over till it's over. They keep that right, and I think it's common between the two states.
Yeah. Do you guys? What about eminent domain? Do you guys see in your state or in your local area We're always fighting that here locally, just making sure that. Obviously we're realtors, so we fight for property rights, and one of the things that's big for us is eminent domain, and that it needs to be a last resort. That if the government or highway needs to go through or something needs to happen, they need to really be a last resort. And if it does have to happen for the good of the public or whatever it's called, then at that point there's better be some good compensation on it.
What is that? What is that eminent domain?
Eminent domain. You want to explain it? You're the attorney.
I mean, I'm happy to, but if anything I say, you're like, I wouldn't have said it that way. Please feel free to.
Yeah, that's all right. No problem.
Eminent domain is the right of the government to take private property for a public use. So the examples you were giving, like a highway, that's for a public use.
Sure.
And there sometimes can be very good reasons why those are needed. And the only way to get the land for it is to take it from private individuals. But our Constitution and our federal laws say you can't do that without just compensation. And we're having that here. In fact, the building I'm sitting in right now, my husband and I own this commercial building, and we just negotiated a nice settlement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation for a road widening project just right on the road behind me.
There you go.
There we go. Well, there can be some benefits.
So it's happening here too.
Yeah, I think what it is, it's the stuff that's more frivolous, that it's like, okay, the government's going to buy this golf course because they don't want a developer to buy it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff, or taking over something because they don't want private enterprise to have it or to do something with that. That's where it gets that's not right.
We don't have as much of that, thank goodness, at least not in my immediate area. Yeah. It's almost all for infrastructure improvement. Yeah. So, it's needed, and nobody really loves when you have to deal with this, but at least it's not just because the government doesn't want to see a private individual or entity do what they want to do with the property.
Yeah, so, exactly. That's interesting that you're actually having that go on right now. What are the odds, right? That's wild. Is there anything else that I know what I wanted to ask you before we end the show here. What is this Iron Lands Independence? What is that? Yeah. I saw the picture. There's like this big iron, right? Like in the middle of this town or somewhere. And then I guess they want to make it that the land around it is independent or something. I don't understand. So
a little bit of context. Our YouTube editor that we've been working with for 5 or 6 years, he now has his own insanely massive YouTube channel. He's got 1 million plus subscribers, and he uses it to teach civics, like civics education in a very accessible way. Yeah. So, this is his civics project of saying, hey, if we wanted to start a country around this iron statue in Asheville, North Carolina, how would we do that? So he tagged me in and said, hey, can you look into this? Like what would be our first steps if we wanted to make this a country? And it has, he has blown up with that.
Yeah, and I saw you had a whole thing on it, and I was like, at first I'm like, what is this? Then I started kind of grasping it. Yeah. So that's what it's about. It's like it's almost like an experiment.
Yeah, it is.
It's an experiment to see what would it take. Fun. Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to dig into that more, actually. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I got to tell you, I appreciate you for coming on today. I really do.
Thank you.
Been watching your show, been seeing you on Instagram, Facebook. You are awesome at all of that stuff. How can somebody get in touch with you, either in North Carolina or just to chat with you about any questions they have? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
So easiest way to find me, thomasandweber.com. On the internet, we're Law at the Lake, most places that you search, and then The Real Estate Lawyer on YouTube.
Awesome. You got to check out the show too. The Real Estate Show with Tiffany Weber is really good. Orion is on there sometimes too. I hear him on the show in the background. So that's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on the show.